After the PCR, how we are going to identify and detect the PCR product? The PCR product, it can be detected by the separation of the PCR product on the agarose gel electrophoresis. And here in this case, as you can see here, so here the PCR product, it is separated on the agarose gel electrophoresis by using along with the standard DNA marker. So here we will be knowing the length of the target DNA sequence. So that here by comparing this with the standard markers, we can able to identify the PCR product by separating it on the agarose gel electrophoresis. Okay, so here in this case you can see the PCRs. The one is the old PCR and the one more is the new automated PCRs. In the old PCR we can see here the three wells over here. So here in these three wells, the three steps of the PCR will be performed, such as the denaturation, annealing and the extension. So here in the old PCR, so here all these three steps are has to be done manually. In the automated PCR machines, so here all these steps, it can be all these things steps are automated, so that here we need not to do them automatically. So here these are the images of the old PCR and the new automated PCRs. Okay, so here it is showing the DNA polymerase you used in the PCR. So here there are different types of, there are the different kinds of the polymerase are used in the PCR, but here out of which I have shown the only the few types here. So here out of which the first one is nothing but the tag polymerase. So here this tag polymerase is the extensively used one. It is isolated from the organism Thermus aquaticus. So here the error rate of this enzyme is, so here it is going to do the one error for every 1.1 into 10 raised 4 base pair added. So here this tag polymerase, so here it is not having any 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. So that means, so here tag polymerase, it is not having any proofreading activity, so that here it is more prone to do the mistakes. So here the next polymerase is nothing but the TTH. So here it is isolated from the organism Thermus thermophilus. So here we don't know about the error rate, and here it is also not having any 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. So that means it is not having any proofreading activity. So that here it is also more prone to do the errors. And the next enzyme is nothing but the deep vent, and it is isolated from the Pyrococcus species. And here the error rate is around, it is going to do the one error for every 4.5 to 10 raised 5 bases added. And here it is having the 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. It is high fidelity DNA polymerase. Okay, and the one more enzyme is the PFU, which is nothing but the, which is isolated from the organism Pyrococcus furiosus. And here this enzyme is also having the high fidelity. It is going to make the one mistake for every 1.6 into 10 raised 6 bases added. And here it is also having the 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. So that here these two enzymes, the deep vent and the PFU, are high fidelity enzymes, and they are having the proofreading activity in the form of 3' to 5' exonuclease activity, whereas the tag attack and the TTH primers are not having the any proofreading activity. Okay, so and in this case the tag polymerase is, so here it can able to synthesize the amplified product of around maximum of around 5 kb in length. And here after this one more thing about the this enzyme tag is nothing but the tag, it is extensively used in the TA cloning, because so here the tag polymerase, it is going to add the extra adenine nucleotide in the 3' end of the amplified product. So here the amplified product obtained from the tag polymerase, it will be having the extra adenine nucleotide at the 3' ends. So that here these amplified products are extensively used in the TA cloning, that we need to remember. And of course tag polymerase, it is not having any proofreading activity. Okay, whereas the PFU polymerase, it is having the, which is considered as the high fidelity enzyme, and it is having the very efficient enzyme. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the design of oligonucleotide primers, and here we are going to discuss about some of the guidelines for the designing of the oligonucleotide primers for the PCR. and here out of which the first guideline is nothing but the base composition. So here in this case, the GC content of the primers, it should be between the 40 to 60%. And here the primers, they should not be having any polypurine or the polypyrimidine tracts, or they should not be having any dinucleotide repeats. So here the nucleotides such as AAA or the GGG or the or the TTT. So here those kind of the polypurine or the polypyrimidine tracts, it should not be there in the primers. At the same time, there should not be, the primers should not be having any dinucleotide repeats. Okay, coming onto the length, so here the primers, it should be having around 18 to 25 nucleotides long. Okay, and the primer pair should not differ in length by more than 3 base pairs. Okay, and then next thing is nothing but the repeated and self-complementary sequences. Okay, so here no inverted repeat sequences or self-complementary sequences more than 3 base pair in length should be present. Okay, so here the primers, they should not be having any inverted repeat sequences, because in that case it can it can form the hairpin loop at the same time. So here these primers, they should not be self complementary. Okay, so here that should be taken care of. Okay, so here after that one, so here the complementarity between the primer pairs. So here the 3-terminal sequence of the one primer, it should not able to bind to the any other site on the primer. So here any weak complementarity between the primer pairs, it is going to result in the formation of the primer dimers, and ultimately it is going to result into the suppression of the amplification of the target DNA. Okay, so here the next criteria is nothing but the melting temperature, or nothing but the TM. It is one of the important criteria for the designing the oligonucleotide primers. So here the TM value is nothing but the melting temperature is nothing but the temperature at which the half of the DNA will be denatured into single strand. Okay, so here that is nothing but the melting temperature. The TM value of the primer pairs should not differ by more than 5 degrees Celsius. So here there are two primers are going to be used in the basic PCR. Okay, one is the forward primer and the reverse primers. Those two primers should not differ in their TM values more than the 5 degrees Celsius. And apart from that one, the TM of the amplified product should not differ from the TM values of the primer pairs by more than the 10 degrees Celsius. It is because this property, it is going to ensure the amplified product will be efficiently denatured during the each cycle of the PCR. So here for this purpose, these criteria should be taken care of. Okay, now is the TM, it can be calculated using the formula TM equals to 4 into G plus T plus 2 into A plus T. By using this formula, we can able to calculate the TM of the primers. So here the GCAT are just nothing but the number of respective nucleotides in the primers. Okay, and how one more thing is base at the 3' end. So here at the 3' end of the primer, it should be having either the G or C. So that is one of the important aspect over here. Now we are going to discuss about the applications of the PCR. PCR technology allows the utilization of very small specimens of genetic material, even from just one cell, copying it repeatedly to generate a test sample sufficiently amplified to be able to detect the presence or absence of a viral, bacterial, or other specific DNA sequences. It is indispensable for the amplification of the DNA samples when there is not enough material available to analyze the other methods. For example, DNA from the crime scenes, archaeological samples, all those things. Okay, so here it can be the PCR, it is extensively used in the medical diagnosis, where from the patient's sample we can able to identify and detect the DNA of the pathogen, such as it might be from the bacteria or it might be from the virus. So here the DNA from the pathogens, it can be identified from the blood samples or from the tissue samples. So here it is extensively used in the medical diagnosis in the disease condition. And then next thing is nothing but the genetic testing. In the genetic testing, we can able to determine and identify the mutation in the patients. For example, in case of the cystic fibrosis, in that case also the mutation will occur there. So here those kind of the mutations, it can be detected by using the genetic testing. And one more example is nothing but the BRCA gene. So here in the genetic testing, so here it is going to present the disease risk of the patients. So here, for example, any mutation in the BRCA1 gene, it is going to be further, it is going to be increasing the chances of the breast or the ovarian cancer. So here those kind of the genetic test, it can be performed by using the PCRs. One more thing is the genome sequencing. So here the DNA sequences of the which is present in the genome, it can be amplified, and here those genome, it can be sequenced, or the genes, it can be sequenced and ultimately assembled to obtain the entire sequence of the genome. So here it can be extensively used in the genome sequencing. And the one more application is nothing but the mutagenesis. So here specifically in the site directed mutagenesis, where the PCR is extensively used. And in the one more thing is the analysis of the ancient DNA. So here it might be from the any fossil sample, or it might be from the any other sample. So here it might be from the very old human sample. So here it can be analyzed. In that case also we can use the PCR sample, which is going to amplify the ancient DNA also. So it can be further analyzed. And in the forensic science also, the PCR is essentially used to identify the culprit or the person. Okay, thank you.